Hello and a warm welcome to you. Many thanks for joining us on Superscreen Midday News, broadcasting to you from Lagos. I am Olamide Onka. Many thanks for joining us once again. United States President Donald Trump has described the killings of Christians in Nigeria as a serious problem, saying the U.S. will not accept it. President Trump said this shortly before he entered into a closed-door meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari at the Oval Office in the White House, Washington, D.C. Trump also condemned the burning of churches and urged the federal government to ensure security of lives and properties in the affected communities, while pledging America's support to partner Nigeria and other African nations.
Thank you. Today I'm honored to host President Buhari of Nigeria at the White House, right here in the beautiful Rose Garden. President Buhari, I want to thank you very much for traveling to Washington for these important discussions. It's a true pleasure to welcome you to our nation's capital. Nigeria is the largest democracy in Africa. As I conveyed to President Buhari in our discussions, the United States deeply values and appreciates Nigeria's role as a strong democratic leader in the region. The United States is currently working to expand trade and commercial ties with African nations, including Nigeria, to create jobs and wealth in all of our countries.
Mr. President of the United States of America, ladies and gentlemen of the media, it has been a pleasure and honor to visit Washington, D.C. at the kind invitation of President Donald Trump. Nigeria and the United States share a long history of close and cordial relations which encompass political, economic, military, social, and cultural cooperation. Our two countries maintain a strategic partnership for peace and security, conflict resolution, as well as the global fight against terrorism. We also share common features as secular federal states practicing a similar democratic model of governance and committed to the universal values of fundamental human rights and freedoms, free enterprise, social justice, and the rule of law. President Trump and his team and myself and the Nigerian team discussed issues related to security, trade, governance, human rights, and humanitarian crisis.
President Donald Trump said the government of the U.S. and Nigeria will work hard to resolve the problems plaguing the West African nation. All Progressives Congress, APC, has extended its good wishes and greetings to all Nigerian workers on this year's May Day celebration. The APC, in a statement made available by its spokesperson Bolaji Abdullahi, described Nigerian workers as key drivers of development despite the challenges they face. Abdullahi said the Nigerian workers are one of the most dedicated, resilient and hardworking in the world, and they remain a key driver of the country's multifaceted development. The party called on the labor and trade unions in the country to continue dialoguing with the government aimed at improving workers' salaries and general welfare. Opposition party, People's Democratic Party, while celebrating Nigerian workers in a statement, called on workers to stand up for democracy and against what it described as incessant constitutional violations and interferences. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has braced for the next year's general election without funds. The polls are 291 days away, but the cash has not been made available for INEC's 300 billion naira budget for the elections. The cash squeeze is likely to affect the timelines for the elections unless the executive and the legislative move fast to resolve the situation. You will recall that INEC in January submitted over 300 billion naira budget to the presidency for vetting and presentation to the National Assembly. INEC has to procure more than 800 materials for the conduct of a successful polls but none has been bought so far. According to the poll's timetable, party primaries for the presidential, governorship, federal and state elections will begin on August 18th and end October 7th. The Oba of Lagos, Rilwan Akiolu, has asked Nigerians to give President Muhammadu Buhari another 4 years as the country's leader. Oba Rilwan Akiolu, who spoke at the opening ceremony of the 17th Lagos Housing Fair, said a second chance will enable the president improve the country's economy. The traditional ruler said he prefers President Buhari's administration compared to former President Olusegun Obasanjo, adding that President Goodluck Jonathan would also have been a better leader if he was not a victim of circumstances who allowed themselves to be manipulated. Akiolu also said all Nigerians must stand with President Buhari and work together in the fight against corruption and terrorism in the country. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has assured stakeholders that the July 14th governorship elections in Ekiti State will be free, fair and credible. The head, Election and Party Monitoring Unit of INEC in Ekiti State, Austin Orogbu, gave the assurance at the governorship primary of the Advanced People Democratic Alliance, where Tokbe Adebayo emerged as the candidate. Orogbu told journalists that APGA is the only party to have produced the governorship candidate so far, as other parties keep changing dates for their primaries. APGA State Chairman Samuel Elebute said Adebayo was considered for the post because it means well for the people of the state, judging by his past records. On his part, Tokbe Adebayo promised to turn around the fortunes of Ekiti State if elected as governor in the forthcoming election. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has unfolded plans to transmit the results of the governorship election in Ekiti and Osun State electronically. Mohammed Lekki, who disclosed this at a seminar organized by the Electoral Institute in Abuja, said the agency will improve the innovative electronic transmission of results. The commissioner also said INEC has discussed with the Nigerian Communication Commission, NCC, and the telecommunication companies, adding that they have assured the agency of the feasibility of transmitting the result electronically. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has interrogated a former Minister of Aviation, Osita Chidoka, over an alleged $3.9 billion naira fraud in connection with the procurement and installation of sensitive security camera infrastructure in 5 international airports. Before Chidoka was invited, the EFCC had quizzed the Managing Director of Brew Limited, the managers of 5 international airports, the Managing Director of the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, FAN, and some officials of the Ministry of Aviation. Report says part of the said contract sum was allegedly fraudulently diverted to the use of the company and its cronies rather than the execution of project under the watch of Chidoka as minister. Now, Ebonyi State government has implemented the Violence Against Persons Prohibited Law, VAAP. The inauguration ceremony was attended by the governor, Dave Umahi, his wife Rachel, and the Speaker of the State House of Assembly at the Executive Council Chamber in Abakaliki. The Speaker, Francis Mwifuru, said the law forbids violence against persons, prohibits female genital mutilations, and protects women against all manner of violence, including wife battering, while stating that the implementation of this law will enable the protection of women. Governor Umahi ordered that copies of the law be distributed to the presidents of town unions, local government chairmen, and councillors to help in propagating it to their areas. Governor Umahi also commended the Speaker and the legislators for making a new law, and he commended his wife and the team for fighting for the cause of women in the state. Minister of Education Malam Adamu says the federal government has released more than 138 billion naira in the last 3 years as matching grants to strengthen basic education system in the country. Adamu disclosed this during the launch of the National Personnel Audit of Basic Education Institutions in Abuja. He said the funds managed by the Universal Basic Education Commission were assessed by states and the Federal Capital Territory that also paid their counterparts' contribution.
This administration from 2015 to date has released the sum of 138 billion as matching grant. These funds have been accessed by states and the FCT after paying their counterpart contributions. As enshrined in Section 9F and I of the UBEC Act, the Commission is mandated to carry out, in concert with the states and local governments at regular intervals, a personnel audit of teaching and non-teaching staff of all basic education institutions in Nigeria. This is in order to establish reliable data for basic education and for planning. Today, to all intents and purposes, is a remarkable landmark for us realizing the resolute commitment of this administration of President Muhammad Buhari to provide quality basic education for all.
The Executive Secretary, Universal Basic Education Commission, Hamid Baboyi, said lack of data is a major setback in the education sector. Baboyi also said the audit would help to create a comprehensive and reliable basic education data bank in Nigeria.
The value addition of the 2018 MPA also lies in the development of the Global Positioning System GPS by NASDRA for proper identification and easy location of schools. This will go a long way to conclude the exercise and produce the results within the shortest time possible. Honorable Ministers, may I also venture to say that the 2018 National Personnel Audit is being undertaken in two phases. The first phase begins from today, Monday, 30th of April, and ends on Friday, 26th of May 2018. It will cover the Southeast, the South-South, and the Southwest. This is to ensure that the exercise is successfully completed before the full onset of the rainy season in these three geopolitical zones.
The audit, according to other speakers, will cover all pupils, students and personnel in both public and private basic education institutions in Nigeria. You're watching Superscreen News at 12. We'll take a break now. When we return, we'll take some business stories. Just stay with us.
Before they come, they're supposed to, give us some information, notice. At least maybe a week or so. There was nothing like that.
Hunger is everywhere in Nigeria. People are dying every day, but Nigerian government are keeping quiet. How and killing people? Why? It's not what we expected because of these old men that are leading us, and you people know, you are aware that these people are not the right people to lead us. These kind of people that are leading us here are people of black mind. They just care about themselves and their family. You are affecting my village. Let me use if I call it useless, I'm not a mistake. The other place where they build a shop, call it plaza. Each shop got 4 million naira. So I don't have the money, so I have to leave. If you plan to get a tribal mark, it takes a lot of pain, but after some time, you enjoy it. No, we experience hold up now during the construction time. Then after some time, we start enjoying it. The way they are doing the construction is too slow. It's too slow. The construction is too slow. They should stop the construction and make sure people go into their businesses and do their businesses.
Welcome back, and now for some business stories. The National Assembly will receive the report on the 2018 budget from its Joint Committee on Appropriation on Wednesday. Investigations indicate that the laying of the 8.612 trillion naira budget will be preparatory to its possible passage on Thursday. Report says the appropriation bill, earlier planned for passage on April 24, failed because of the enormous volume of work before the various committees, particularly Anchor Committee on Appropriation. You will recall that the Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Appropriation, Chris Azubogo, confirmed that the National Assembly will take up to its May to pass the budget. The Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, has cautioned the federal government against missing the timeline for the implementation of a new national minimum wage for workers. The new wage is expected to take effect from August 2018. NLC President Ayuba Waba ended the warning during a pre-May Day symposium jointly organized by NLC and the Trade Union Congress in Abuja with the theme of the 2018 May Day celebration, Role of the Labor and Workers in National Development. Waba said the organized labor will ensure the timeline set by the Tripartite Committee on the implementation of the national minimum wage is not altered. He added that workers who create wealth must also be well taken care of, as they are not unmindful of the situation of Nigerian workers, particularly with the increasing inflation in the country. International oil benchmark Brent crude has hit $75 per barrel and rose further amidst growing geopolitical tensions in the world. Brent, against which Nigeria's crude oil is priced, stood at $75.16 per barrel, while the United States marker, West Texas Intermediate, traded around $68.36 per barrel. The rise in the oil prices means further accretion to the nation's excess crude account, into which the difference between the market price of oil and the budget benchmark is saved to provide a cushion when oil prices fall or extra cash is needed for spending on infrastructure. The 2018 budget proposal submitted by President Muhammadu Buhari in November 2017 put the benchmark oil price at $45 per barrel compared to the $44.5 per barrel for the 2017 budget. Still in business, the Agence Française de Développement has said it climate infrastructure at regional level and development of sustainable low-emission projects in Africa. The report made available to journalists in Abuja put the total commitment of the agency from 2010 to 2017 in Nigeria and the economic of West African states at more than 1.5 billion euros on over 30 projects. The report also stated that 1.8 million people benefited from the improved electricity, and while more than 2 million people have access to improved water services. The AFD says 2,000 kilometers of rural roads were rehabilitated, adding that it purchased 11,230 metric tons of grain to deal with the food crisis in West Africa. Fidelity Bank PLC has reported 20 billion naira profit before tax for the financial year, which ended December 31st, 2017. The result represents 94% rise in profitability when compared with the 2016 figures. The bank's gross earning rose from 152 billion naira in 2016 to 179.9 billion in 2017, representing a 18.3% increase. Other details of the full-year audited results released at the National Nigerian Stock Exchange showed impressive growth in all key indices. The performance capped a remarkable 2017 fiscal year for the bank, which returned to the international capital market and successfully issued a $400 million Euro bond that was oversubscribed by 200%. In line with the mandate of the Chief of Naval Staff, Ibok Etaibas, to maintain zero tolerance for criminal activities within the maritime environment, the Nigerian Navy ship Pathfinder in Rumolimi, Port Harcourt, has handed over an abandoned vessel intercepted for over 2 months to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, for further investigation. Speaking with journalists, the Executive Director of NNS Pathfinder Navy, Victor Choji, said the vehicle and the vessel, which has 1,800 metric tons of suspected stolen crude oil, was intercepted by officials and the command along Onea waterways during patrol.
one of the patrol elements of the Nigerian Navy ship Pathfinder, deployed for anti-crude oil theft and illegal bunkering patrol, intercepted a vessel, MT Anton, at San Bartolome River entrance at about 0550 hours, laden with about 1,800 liters, 1,800 metric tons of suspected stolen crude oil. The vessel was abandoned by the crew at the time the patrol team arrived at that location. But at the time of this report, nobody has owned up to the ownership of this vessel.
Choji also warned that the Nigerian Navy will remain steadfast in its drive to stop all forms of criminality along the waterways.
But what is interesting about this particular arrest is that unlike previous arrests, the crew abandoned the vessel and ran away. And for us, it's an indication that we have closed up so much on criminalities within the River State Maritime Domain that owners of vessels are willing to abandon expensive assets for fear of what will happen if they are arrested. We will remain steadfast, we will remain dogged, and we will continue in our campaign against crude oil and illegal thefts and other illegalities within the River State Maritime Domain until we have eliminated all forms of criminalities in this area.
The naval officer also said all hands must be on deck in the fight against crude oil theft. You're watching Superscreen Midday News. We'll take a break now. When we return, it'll be time for some foreign and some sports news. Stay with us.